Seahawks Today is sponsored by GlassesUSA.com. We'll tell you more about our newest partner here at Chat Sports coming up later on in the show. That's GlassesUSA.com. I'm wearing them. You can be wearing them too. On today's show, we are talking post-June 1 trade and cut candidates. I have 4 names for your Seattle Seahawks who they could potentially cut or trade and save money against the salary cap to be able to make some potential moves elsewhere. And we will get to all of those names in just a matter of moments. Before we do, here's your chance to be the tough critic here. Name a player you think the Seahawks should move on from. Who's a player that comes to mind that you would like to see Seattle say sayonara to, be done with? Tell me in the comments section, name a player the Seahawks should move on from, and we'll get started with today's show. So here's what we're doing. We're going to break down 4 names that the Seahawks could move on from post-June 1 as trade or cut candidates. And you may be saying to yourself, why does June 1 matter? Well, the NFL calendar, the way it's set up, that is kind of the hard deadline where some players, all of a sudden their cap savings go up or they go down. It is a very important date on the NFL calendar when it comes to that mark as far as when guys, are getting paid and what their worth is. And so with that said, let's start with, this might be a bit of a surprise here, Uchenna Nwosu. Hear me out on this. If the Seahawks were to move on from Uchenna Nwosu, they could save $8.26 million against the cap. And I know what you may be saying to yourself. Well, wait, wasn't Uchenna Nwosu very good this past season? Why would they want to move on from him? All of that is very true, but the numbers don't lie here. And you look at the other outside linebackers that are out there, and we'll show you that list here in just a second. You could get a couple guys that might be just as good and maybe spend half. Or you have a number of young guys internally that you don't have to pay nearly as much that might be worthy of playing time in that position. Uchenna Nwosu joined Seattle in 2022 from the Chargers. Spent all of last season playing all 17 games and was terrific with 9.5 sacks. And for Seattle, it's nothing against Nwosu at all. This is not a knock on his talent level whatsoever. This is a potential business decision of the Seahawks looking at better options at that linebacker position and spending less money as far as that goes. CBS Sports had something to say about the idea of potentially moving on from Nwosu. And they brought up a very good point that I want to show you as far as why Seattle could make this cut. Listen to this. Nwosu's inclusion on this list isn't to suggest he's as good as gone, but at his current price, with the youth around him on the edge of Seattle's defensive line, he could be expendable. So it's simple as that. It's a potential business decision. Now, maybe you could find yourself in a potential situation where you are able to restructure the contract, but all of that money is a lot for a guy at that position as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what the Seahawks do when it comes to that. With that said, here are the other guys that Seattle could be potentially looking at just internally of the outside linebacker spot. Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, Mike Morris, Tariq Smith, all young cats. And Boye Mafe in particular, I'm very excited about. Somehow he's been forgotten about. He could be a name that could be looked at that could be ready to take that next step up and has a lot of potential as far as I'm concerned. I'll show you the notable free agent outside linebacker options as well in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor. More Seahawks Today coming up in just a moment. But before we do, are you tired of paying a lot on prescription eyeglasses? Then this message is for you. My new Muse Vicky prescription eyeglasses are from GlassesUSA.com. If you didn't already know, GlassesUSA.com is one of the biggest eyewear retailers in the U.S., offering thousands of eyeglasses and sunglasses from brands such as Ray-Ban, Gucci, Oakley, and many more. What's best about GlassesUSA.com is that glasses start at only $39, which are up to 70% off retail prices. There is a crazy exclusive offer waiting for my followers by clicking the links in the description box. GlassesUSA.com is also the perfect place to stock up and save on contact lenses. You get 25% off all contact lens brands: Vista, AccuView, Biofinity, Dailies, and many more. They're available with any prescription and for all uses. They also got a super helpful AR virtual try-on tool to help find your right frames. Also, shopping online at GlassesUSA.com is a risk-free shopping experience with free shipping and returns and 100% money-back guarantee within 14 days. Don't wear prescription eyeglasses? Well, don't worry. I also got these Otado Roland sunglasses from GlassesUSA.com. Get the exclusive discount only available to Seahawks Today viewers by clicking on the links in the comments and description box, only available for 24 hours. Once again, thank you, GlassesUSA.com, for sponsoring today's video. Also, when you look at the free agent outside linebacker options, you have Leonard Floyd, who I would argue is just as good, if not better, than Uchenna Nwosu, and he would be cheaper than Uchenna is. Justin Houston's around. He's an older guy. Anthony Barr, Jordan Jenkins, Marcus Golden. So whether it's internally or on the free agent market, you can save a lot of money if you move on from Uchenna Nwosu. Or I think the best case scenario is keep him, but a restructure. You don't need to take that much of a cap hit as far as I'm concerned. Should the Seahawks keep Uchenna Nwosu? What do you think? Y for yes, in for no. Tell me in the comments section what the Seahawks should do with Uchenna Nwosu or not. Y for yes, in for no. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Another name that has been talked about a lot is Quandre Diggs. Now, Seahawks Today has told you for the last couple of months that we think that it would be best for the Seahawks to keep Quandre Diggs and to restructure his deal. But if you feel like that you're all in on Julian Love and you're ready to trade off Quandre Diggs and try to get something out of him, the Seahawks could save $14 million if they trade Quandre Diggs post-June 1. Now, their window basically to cut Quandre Diggs has passed. That's pretty much just gone. There's not much of a cap savings if they were to cut him. But if they want to trade him, try to get a pick or something out of him, they still have that opportunity to do so. Diggs has been very successful in his time in Seattle. He started every game for the Seahawks since 2020, a three-time Pro Bowler from 2020 to 2022. He has been terrific. And assuming that he's back this upcoming season, you pair him with a healthy Jamal Adams, Julian Love coming in, Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Kobe Bryant, you're looking at a very good secondary, arguably the best in the NFL. Field Golds from SB Nation. John P. Gilbert had this to say about the situation involving Quandre Diggs. Releasing Diggs prior to June 2nd would actually reduce the amount of cap space the team has by $3.59 million, while releasing Diggs with a post-June 1 destination would free up a whopping $510,000 of cap space. With the rookie minimum salary set to be $750,000 for the 2023 season, that means that releasing Diggs with a post-June 1 designation and replacing him with a rookie undrafted free agent would actually reduce the amount of cap space available to the Hawks by $240,000. So there you have it. Releasing him just doesn't make sense. It would have to be a trade if you're going to move on and save that $14 million. What should the Seahawks do with Quandre Diggs? Trade him or pass? Hold on and keep him. What do you think? Tell me in the comments section. T for trade, P for pass as far as Quandre Diggs goes. Should the Seahawks move on from him or not? For the best Seattle Seahawks coverage on YouTube, this is the channel for you. As we're talking about your Seattle Seahawks each and every day here on the channel for free. We have our news and rumor segments each and every day. We also, on Wednesdays, do live shows at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. during the season. We do our watch parties. And if news breaks, we're stopping whatever we're doing and bringing you instant analysis and reaction to your Seattle Seahawks and what they're doing. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. It's no secret that when you look at the Seattle Seahawks and their future in the tight end room beyond 2023, that they're going to have some decisions to make. That they're likely not going to keep both Noah Fant and Will Dissly. Although both players are good tight ends, neither one are great tight ends, and they'll need to improve that position going forward in the future. That means one of them's got to go. And according to reports, the things that we've been reading, the guy that's more likely to be moved on from is Will Dissly. And the situation involving Dissly is not necessarily a cut situation. It's more so a trade deal for him. The Seahawks could save $6.09 million if he were to be traded post-June 1. Now, remember, he's also coming off a damaged knee bone injury that he suffered towards the end of last year. Started 15 games for the Seahawks with 34 catches, 349 yards, and 3 touchdowns. All those numbers were career highs for the former fourth-round pick out of Washington there. And, I like Will Dissly. He's a good player, but eventually a decision's going to have to make. You're going to have to choose one or the other. So do you do that now and get that pick for him while you can, or do you just hold off on the inevitable till next season? That's a decision potentially the Seahawks have to make, and might come down to that salary situation if they want to pay him that money that he's owed. Pete Carroll had this to say about Will Dissly and his status when it comes to recovering from the injury. This is what Pete had to say. He's doing really well, making progress. There was a time here when we were re-looking to determine whether he would need surgery or whether he would recover without it, and it seems that he's able to do that, so it would be a real positive. So there you have it there. One more name that we'll mention as a possible cut/trade candidate is Dee Eskridge. We've talked about Dee a lot, and you wouldn't save a whole lot if you cut Dee Eskridge. It'd just be a little over $1 million, 1.2 to be exact, post-June 1. But more than anything, it would be a roster spot that you'd be able to use elsewhere on other things. And if you're the Seahawks, it would be disappointing if it gets to this point where you have to cut Dee Eskridge. Because it wasn't too long ago that he was a second-round pick with a lot of optimism coming out of Western Michigan. But he hasn't been consistent on the football field. He's dealt with injuries. He has not lived up to the hype at all in his career. Most recently, he was placed in IR back in late November with a broken hand. His career stats in 2 seasons, just 17 catches, 122 yards, and a touchdown for Dee Eskridge. Is it time for Seattle to count their losses and move on and give that roster spot to somebody else? What do you think? Should the Seahawks cut Dee Eskridge or not? Type C for cut, type K for keep. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. So, to recap before we go, here's our cut and trade potential candidates. And again, we're not saying that the Seahawks should do this, but here's a couple of big names that come to mind. Uchenna Nwosu Quandre Diggs, also Will Dissly, and then lastly, Dee Eskridge as the 4 big names to watch of potential cut and trade candidates for Seattle of who they could potentially move on from. Name a player the Seahawks will move on from. We know this roster is going to look different now when the season begins compared to what it is right now. Whether it's somebody we talked about or somebody we haven't talked about, name a player the Seahawks will ultimately move on from and not be a part of this Seahawks team in 2023. Give me one name who you think is not going to be a Seahawk next year. As always, interact with me on social media. Love hearing from the 12s on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Tyler Jones Live. That's where you can find me talking about your Seattle Seahawks, among other things, including the Summer of Jones as well. I'll see you there. The show continues on social media. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us here on Seahawks